Ooh, that was kind of nice.
Welcome everyone, this is Dom. This is another episode of Kerbal Realism. Today we start in orbit around Kerbin with Jebediah at the helm, with a colony control center. I'm just doing a little bit of science, kind of like last episode, not really science, doing a couple of contracts. Might help if I actually started this, recording, with the correct information. Yeah, so I'm just starting to get some science going. Oh wait, I would turn off the prograde. I was wondering why he wasn't moving. Yeah, I just want to get a little bit of science going, and money's going, so that I can afford one or two upgrades before we really get into the bulk of today's episode. So let's go ahead and do a nice little EVA here. This is something I just unlocked. Woohoo! He's literally standing on it. I just unlocked the ability to do an EVA report, so that's very beneficial to us. Let's see if we can do a crew report here. Oh yeah, space near Kerbin we've already done. And then we need to run the test here so we can satisfy our contract. Eventually we will be going to the moon and doing a geosynchronous orbit, but for now I just wanted to do a little bit of contracts here. So we're just going to go ahead and I want to deorbit Jeb here, get him home, and then we'll start the next part of the episode. And welcome back to Kerbal Space Center. Today we have just landed Jeb back here, and we got our money and our little bit of science that we collected along the way. But the main goal that I wanted to complete today, since I've already upgraded basically every one of the major buildings that I will be using, except for the spaceplane hangar. We'll do that in the near future. I just upgraded the mission control here and the astronaut complex. But what I really need to do is increase the research and development, because I can't get any of the nodes. Let's take a look actually. Any of the science nodes past this point. And I'm pretty sure this guy right here is the one I need to get my radiators. Now, the radiators are extremely important whenever you have Kerbal's Interstellar, I guess? Yeah, Interstellar. KSP Interstellar installed, because of the waste heat produced by solar panels. And the solar panels are basically mandatory for any long duration flight of a probe or a manned vehicle. Now, you don't want your vehicle stuck out in space because they're too hot and they can't operate, so we are going to be upgrading this guy right here to see if we can... Ooh, cool, little buildings are added. See if we can find the node that has... Yes, radiators. Right here. This is exactly what I was looking for. I was looking for the radial radiators and the inline radiators. Also, they have the larger photovoltaic cells. Last series, we didn't have these radiators, I don't think, to do our first moon mission, and I want to make sure that I have them before we leave Kerbin's sphere of influence, at least to go to the moon. So I want to go ahead and research that, but to do that, I'm going to have to do some local science, and we have just now allowed, I think, for us to collect surface samples. So we're going to do a nice little quick surface sample collect. I'm going to go ahead and pull the puddle out here to the launch pad and just kind of collect some surface samples here and there, and we'll be back, I guess, after that. And excellent. That is done and over with. You're going to just recover the last parts of the vessel there. And now we have all the science we will need. 160 is all that it requires to unlock this node. And 60,000 is plenty enough for me to get the radiators and all that is included, including the better solar panels, which we will probably be using. So that basically concludes that. I'm going to figure out what we're going to be doing for this episode now, and I will see you on the launch pad. And welcome back to the launch pad. This is the moon probe. We have done a launch like this last season, except this one has a couple of different parts and is a little bit more, in my opinion, efficient and made for a longer journey, at least what's inside this fairing nose here. This is the conic fairing from procedural fairings. That is the mod that I'm using for just for now. I want to see how it works, and you guys are going to be with me while I test it. I haven't really used it yet. So 3, 2, 1, fire. We're going to try to get this thing into low Kerbal orbit with the lower stage here. It's quite light, quite inexpensive for at least for the first stage. I don't even think we're going to be able... I don't think we're going to be recovering this because we'll already be in a low Kerbal orbit by the time that this thing burns out. Let's go ahead and throttle her down again. Now, the payload, which we will be revealing in a little bit, is a very, very similar model to the one in last season's. The only major difference is that we have, what are those things called? Radiators. The radiators will allow us to keep this probe in orbit forever, more or less. And it has those nice solar panels on it as well that allow for rapid recharging. So let's go ahead and just do that. Move ourselves over a little bit. This thing doesn't like to be tilted. I'm just going to go ahead and punch it. And we'll go 75. So this thing can easily reach orbit, and there we go. Let's go ahead and pull ourselves over to 70. And what ends up happening is that it kind of does this weird orbital roll thing, or this weird roll thing. If I hit orbital there, it kind of sways back and forth until we reach the less thicker part of the atmosphere here. I'm not really too concerned about it because it hasn't shook apart yet in testing. The only thing I have not tested are the fairings, so we'll see how that all ends up. We're almost actually have our apoapse above the atmosphere. So I'm going to get this thing into orbit, and we'll catch up with each other when we are entering the moon's sphere of influence. And we are on a impact trajectory with the moon here. That's because the throttle on this engine is exactly instantaneous. So we are going to have to do a small correction burn. But what first we're going to do is release this guy right here, and now he is now on his own. We will go to the node and execute. Yes, we can. And then hopefully that will bring us a little bit closer to a nice, relatively small periapse there. didn't end up working. Well, it didn't work. Let's do it ourselves. Oh, that's right, we don't have a engine on. That's what it is. Forgot to turn the engine on. There it goes. Now we should have a decent trajectory now. Let's see. Got, we'll do a little bit less, a little bit more. That's decent. So by the time we get to the moon, we will be able to do a nice, basically capture burn and then change our inclination to have a polar orbit around the moon so we can scan its surface. Okay, and now we are officially in the moon's sphere of influence here, so we're going to set up a burn to go retrograde a little bit just to get a capture going. And then we will set up another node for our inclination, and that's almost perfect. So we'll hit node, execute, and the computer will do the rest. We have just a little bit of fuel on this guy and a downscaled LV909. Ooh, man. There it goes. Nice. Very, very simple system. Now, on the probe itself, let's go ahead and take a look at that. Since there's a little bit of sun, we have some solar panels, a bunch of batteries, some fuel, a rocket, antennas, a couple of radiators, and another omnidirectional antenna, which should be able to communicate with anything relatively in the moon's sphere of influence quite easily. What we're going to do is set up an inclination burn. Oops. Let's go ahead and do that. We will have to do one of these and just kind of finagle it back and forth until we get the inclination we want, which is relatively vertical. That's exactly what I'm looking for. It is as vertical as I can get it. Ooh. There we go. And just about even on either side. Oop, wrong direction. There it goes. And then we will program that one in. So we'll do node execute. We'll zoom over to there. It will do that burn. I've had a bunch of people ask me, how do you know how to do all this kind of stuff? Mostly practice. Quite literally, mostly practice is what helps me do all this. This is going to take a lot of fuel, so this is why I actually put a dedicated amount of fuel and an engine on the probe itself. Mostly because I knew that this burn specifically would cost quite a bunch of fuel for the burn. So once we get that trajectory going around the moon, or that orbit going, we will look at this altimetry sensor like we did in last season. There we go. It's almost exactly perfect. If we look at our orbit, we have an inclination of about 86 degrees, which is almost perfectly what I want, and an eccentricity of way less than 1, which means that we're almost perfectly circular. I mean, we are close to almost there. This will slowly go around the moon and scan its surface for altimetry, which is the only type of small map sensor that we currently have from ScanSat, or from anything really. That will allow us to basically build a nice map of what the surface of the moon looks from all angles, so including even the dark side from Kerbin's point of view. So that's one of the things that NASA must have done ahead of time before they wanted to go and land on it. Now this also satisfies one of our contracts, and will satisfy our collect the science on the surface of, or from space around the moon, once we are done with this. So what I'm going to do is actually put ourselves in a, with respect to the surface, positive radial. Just a thing of mine, I just like that. Actually, let's try positive normal, see what that does. Yeah, no. Yeah, I like the positive radial. I don't know why. Kind of keeps my keeps everything kind of pointed outwards. It's just for fun. And also, good thing is that it should allow the solar panels to have different angles facing the sun at all at one time. If you just leave it on kill and your solar panels are perpendicular to the sun, you will get 0 sun on your solar panels. So that's a little bit of a tip. So we are going, since we have started the scan, let's go ahead and open up the big map here. This is what the moon will look like, and this will slowly fill up with sensor data, or scan data here, once we finish. So what we're going to do is now close the big map and allow this thing to scan. If you look in the top right hand corner, I'm just going to go ahead and speed up time, let the thing run its course. It's going to do quite a few loops, and the map will fill up with the altimetry. And there we go. I think it should be just about done. There's a couple of missing sectors. That's because my height isn't exactly ideal for this specific type of scan here. So let's turn the altimetry back on. There we go. It's rendering the big map for me now. And now we have a map of the moon. And we can actually figure out how high everything is relatively with respect to the quote-unquote sea level of the moon. So we can see the depressions, see how high like the ridges are on some of these craters. So for example, if you look at this bottom bar here, where there's no numbers right now, but whenever I hover my mouse over some other sectors, a lot of the stuff shows up. This is a low intensity, I guess, scan. So it really doesn't have all of the information that it should, or that you would want. This is a rough number, so if you look right around here where my mouse is now floating, it will tell you the rough height above sea level. So basically the darkest spots are basically 0 meters above sea level, so the shallowest parts on the moon, so the darkest spots, and then the white sections are about 6,000 meters up, so 6 whole kilometers above sea level is what that is running at. So basically you can tell the slope and where the flat spots are, and we will choose one of these flat spots in the future to land our lander on with a Kerbal. But that is going to be it for the scan for today. We will bring more sensors to other various planets and such in the near future. For now, we are going to send back the data. Hopefully we have connection. We do not. We will wait till we have connection until we send back the data. You need to, with remote tech, you need to have communication with Kerbin, with any type of remote body to execute any maneuvers, program in any of that kind of stuff, or send data, extend your solar panels, all those kinds of things. Oop, I'm still a time warp. And now we are going to analyze the data that we have collected. That is 36 science for scanning the altimetry of the moon. So low resolution altimetry scan is what this allows us to do. And since we've covered almost 100% of the entire surface with this sensor, we are going to just send it back, and it's 100% transmission value, so you don't have to go and collect it manually, which makes sense because all it is pictures. Cool. And we have just completed the 2 contracts that we looked to do today, the 2 parts of the moon contract, which is achieve orbit around the moon and transmit or recover scientific data from the space around the moon. And that's going to be it for today. In the next episode, we will be progressing even further. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.